So,
are we gonna, do we make a motion contingent to Mark?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
We've got to close the floor.
Oh, yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Close floor.
Second.
Second.
Who's second?
No, I
Bruce?
just wanted our application to not, or our application.
Now I'll make a motion to approve the.
So we don't even have a completed application yet.
You can stop
All
by
right.
otherwise tomorrow.
Tomorrow is fine.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Is it okay that we approve it before we receive
Well, no,
it?
what you do is make it, you would, as you started out saying, that contingent on the chief's follow-up.
Yeah.
Call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who seconded that?
Me. Me.
Okay.
Item number 17, to discuss fire alarms and generators.
This is the colored one.
Yeah, I know it's here, so it's go next.
You want to take it?
Yeah, it's all yours. I got it here.
Okay.
Joe and I have been working together on this because it's been quite a fiasco trying to get the two companies to bid the same product. And finally, we're able to get apples to apples. And when we did finally get to the point where we knew exactly what we were talking about and they bid out the same product, you can see that they are literally $400 apart. So it just depends on whether you want to go with a Cummins product that's made, or I shouldn't say it's made, but it's the company that sells the product is in Green Bay. Total Energy sells a Kohler product, that is in Appleton. It's a horse apiece. I don't have favoritism for either product. Joel, do you have anything? It doesn't matter to me. They're both probably very, very good products. But K&B Electric and Faith Electric did both site inspections and then they submitted bids. We didn't tell them what the bids were to each other. And there's a considerable difference, but K&B also wired the building here so they know exactly what they need to do to make this work for the village, because Todd was the one that did the whole police department. So he was pretty comfortable low bidding on it to get the job. And his bid was $10,000 less than the bid from Faith, which is a considerable amount of money. That is my part on the generator. It'll start within 15 seconds, probably look more like the 3.5 realistically, and the transition back to regular current once the power is on should actually be seamless. You'll see a little flicker in the lights, but it'll just switch over automatically.
We'll shut off automatically.
Yeah, and then there's a monthly, it runs monthly and flips over and actually runs on the generator monthly. That has to be done in order to maintain the generators, because if you do not use them, then you do need them. So for like an hour, probably instead of for like noon on a Saturday or something, and it'll just kick on and it'll run. Now, fire alarms, that Joanna would be more of the person on that, because she's the one that did the research on the fire alarms. I didn't put my hands into that bucket.
So that's basically in your hands, but they're not cheap. To have them professionally installed and follow all the code that's required from the state of Wisconsin and for government buildings. I think we had two quotes. One was at approximately $40,000 and one was at $17,000. If I had to weigh the two products, I would want everybody in the building to be protected from a fire, but also all of your equipment to be protected. So it's kind of a balance. Mark and I talked about the generator a little bit today. More than likely, there would just be one workstation in an office or two, which we already own one UPS that could be moved into this role. A UPS is that battery that keeps your power while it switches over to the generator. So we would keep a couple workstations on that. Batteries are usually $100 to $150 for replacement annually. They keep 2 workstations live. We talked about when it does kick over to generator, the rest of the computers might shut off. Not the servers, not anything on a UPS, but Karen and Jody or Tiffany's computer might shut off. But with that being said, there are all kinds of settings on a computer that you can set, Microsoft Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, to automatically save your files every X amount of minutes. It might be 10. So they're saving in the background when you haven't. Yep, you might have tracks open at the time that you lost that one paragraph or whatever, but the majority of everything will be saved. But it's important to keep 1 or 2 workstations up and running in case it is a major event. So,
Well, what's the difference between the generator now and your fire alarm deal?
the fire alarms are simply that. It's a fire alarm system that is kind of inspected by the state of Wisconsin, and there are rules you have to follow to install in this building. We had 2 quotes for that. That simply protects us for fire. In this building, a phone call will be made to the fire department. It'll call out and say, this alarm is going off. Lights and bells and whistles are gonna go off in the building to evacuate everybody. So that's the fire alarm system. The generator is a piece of equipment that looks like a large air conditioner outside of the building. And when it senses, it has a sensor and a transfer switch. And if it senses that the power has gone out, the transfer switch is gonna flip over and the generator is gonna start. And it's gonna start to power the electricity in this building to keep things operational. Things like our phones, our servers, electrical lights, so people can see and work and function.
Garage doors.
The garage doors, all of those kinds of things. So that generator is our big battery to keep us running. Fire alarm systems, that's to keep us safe in case of fire. So they're kind of 2 different things that were brought up, I believe, at one board meeting under a conversation.
Right, that was at the board organizational meeting of April 18th of 2017, and you have those in your packet, but discussion was held in reference to the fire alarm proposals as Chief Mark Hensel, Joel Van Lyman, and Joanne Krowski. 2 bids were received as per attached. I just showed those to read. There was Bannerd Electric Incorporated out of Kaukauna, and I typed those off the bid sheet. $14,870 base bid plus $1,165 alternate bid installation cost and per point system monitoring at an annual fee of $275. And the number 2 was Ahern Fire Protection out of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, $42,775 plus $358 optional price to add an IPDACT plus annual fire alarm monitoring agreement, $360 for 1 year versus $900 for 3 years. That was discussion only.
Now, in your mind, which is the most important one now?
Well, they're both important, Bob.
Yeah, I know, but which?
Yeah. Here's the deal with it. With the fire alarm system, if you have a fire alarm system and we don't have a generator backup, we have 35 minutes to get this place shut down at the very most. You have to be here, otherwise we're gonna, then once the servers crash, we're in trouble.
If the village has a power outage, you need a generator. If the village has a fire in this building, you need a fire system to let somebody know that the building is. These are, in my opinion, can even be, I'm not your best fire person. I followed code and trusted in the vendors that supplied us with the bids because they know their business. So if I wanted you to be, if the building burns down, we lose everything. If the power goes out, we can't work and we risk losing data and information and things that the state and federal government require us to keep for a minimum of 120 days. I don't even know if the village has to make this decision today. You have your pricing, you can pursue other options. It's a hard decision, money is tight. And we've made a lot of progress, but there's also value in protecting your progress.
I just have a question about that, the fire bids. What, do you understand what the difference is, or why is
They
there
both
such a?
follow both state and regulations. They have different manufacturers that are putting in the parts and pieces.
So why is the money different? I mean,
I
the cost?
believe it's a matter of business. I believe one wanted our business better than the other. One
So
is-
it's apples to apples
I
you're looking
believe it's
at?
truly apples to apples. Actually,
Okay.
I would trust the cheaper of the two by far.
And same thing here, Chris, you see there's a huge difference, it's who's hungry. You know?
Well, I understand that for installation, that's kind of different, but as far as the equipment,
With the equipment, as far as both bids, I think both companies, all 5 companies were asked to come. 2 took the time to entertain the project. One company you've already had a significant investment with. They're already established in the building, they know exactly where all the cables and everything is run. The same guys are gonna come in and do the job, and they already know the way. The other vendor is somebody that is a couple hundred, or 150 miles to Fond du Lac, where the other vendor has kids going to Sunnyside, and people that live in our community. So there's a cost associated with being far away. There's also a cost with not out knowing the structure itself, and the time it takes to install the product. I think they're equally, they both followed all of the state regulations and laws regarding installing the system. And also the cheaper system, which was surprising to me, was the Simplex system. So they're very well known for their product.
I just want to make sure we're doing apples to apples.
I was
You know,
shocked.
for different, that's a huge difference.
That is a huge difference.
And
A
actually,
very huge
the library has the Simplex system that we must have paid for many, many years ago, and we have an annual fee that we have to pay.
And between Joe and Mark, they're just looking any financing on these? Is it cash after done, or what's the?
I didn't explore that option.
We talked to Cummins about that, and they didn't provide any financing options.
Well, I personally, definitely think we need both, I just, where we're gonna get the funds from.
What
If I had to
bucket are we
say
pulling
anything-
those from?
Yeah, if I had to say anything, right now, you're gonna overheat in a matter of minutes without the generator. We're gonna overheat, or it has to be shut off within 30 minutes. If Joanne's not in town, we're in trouble.
Well, we do have payment systems in play to monitor.
As I said,
Yeah,
if
but-
you're not in town, I'm in trouble, because then you're gonna be talking to me on the phone, telling
I
me
tried
to
to
do
do her
it.
as fast as I could.
Oh, you're sitting back there. You got any idea on this?
The only comment I'd have is the difference between JFA Hearn and the other company. The analogy I'd give is Oscar Bolt to Shoe Construction,
Okay,
Myron to Badgerland Building, you know.
Okay.
That's kind of part of where that big cost spread is. And they probably do a, rather than a kind of what would be a package deal with the Simplex that you're talking to, they probably designed it from the ground up. That's what JFA Hearn does. So.
I'd just like to interject this, that you certainly wouldn't go drive your new car without insurance. And that's what they're doing right
Oh, yeah,
now.
because you buy some shirts from Doug.
Good one, Bob.
That
No,
was good.
That's unfortunate. We didn't foresee this when the building was being remodeled, and I guess,
Do we have any backer fund left, or is that all gone, or do we have anything?
I can't intelligently answer that right now.
I mean,
I think it's something we need to really do.
It's gonna be, to me, it's
But
high
we
priority.
Really, yeah, I think it's a priority, but we also have to figure out where we're gonna get the funds for it. So,
What is the total between the two, Mark?
To 28,
1830.
240 would be the cheapest one, and an 18.9 would be your two.
No, but that between this and the fire.
48.
Let's
What
put
was
these
your
two
bid?
together.
Lowest bid,
Well,
Joanne?
The fire is approximately
Banner
18.
was at 14,870.
Yeah.
About
And then-
66 for everything.
Huh?
About 66 for fire and generator.
And you know, the problem is, what people don't realize is what happens when you have $100,000 worth of servers that you wreck because we choose to do nothing about it. That's, at the end of the day, that's all I'm worried that you understand that that's where the money's at.
Now, Bill, if that happens, does our insurance and this building cover that? No.
Probably not, unless it's built into your policy.
It is built into the policy. I did talk to the insurance man. It was over a year ago, so where that left off, I cannot say.
But then I have cases that.
But you're
Or
not.
your data, I mean, that's. yeah, you
It's
got
not
money,
a
but
matter of
there's your
having
data.
insurance for the hardware, yes, that might be covered. It's the hours created
Yeah,
to recreate everything. The
Yeah.
things that you just can't recover by buying another box. The village has come such a far way
We have
from
enough
where they
resource
were
for
with a couple PCs that were full of dust and had to be restarted multiple times a day. But it's an investment and you're growing. That's the good thing, is that when people walk through your door, they see that we're progressing, and technology is part of that.
The village hall is the only municipal operation building that does not have a backup system currently. All of our wells, our shop, wastewater treatment plant, we all have some sort of backup.
well,
Judge Bentley, you were here the morning when the power went out. We were literally shut down.
Yeah, we were in the dark.
And I was on the ladder, turning the wheel to open up the overhead doors. Inch by inch.
That was your therapy for the day?
Well, what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if it would have been something where you needed.
I'm not denying we don't need it, but
It's like the fobs on the door didn't work. It's.
Everything.
Nothing worked. Phone system was shut down, everything. Then you'd look across over here at the restaurant, people were coming outside because they were in the dark. And nothing was operational.
I suppose we can't make the bond bigger, huh?
Well, that
Well, is
bond, you
there
know,
money in it, extra money in it, in the bond?
the bond, when we borrowed money for the buildings, the two buildings, was that what was bid? Did we borrow that? Or because we did have $25,000 or so from a donor for one building and then another 25 for the other building, for the bathrooms. Did we take that into account?
I believe we did.
shot that idea. I think personally we should move on with this. I don't know how to put this, but buy now, pay later.
Okay, I would, we know that we just did a note today. We know that we have to do it next year. You know, and we can probably make that part of that reimbursement next year.
So we could take this out of our slush fund per se?
We'll be taking it from pocket to pocket
Pocket.
for a little bit, but
Yeah.
then when we're gonna do that total, you know, next,
November, whenever it
we're
was?
projected next March, I believe.
Okay.
It's an idea.
That's the only way I can come up with it. I think we're gonna be using what's left of the Lambo money to finish these two park projects. So I wanna be honest about that.
So we don't know exactly how much we have left. I think I seen, we were gonna use 107 at one point. I don't know if that was a true figure or not that I seen in one of the meetings, but there might be a little bit more left, do you think, for the parks in there? Okay.
Well, it's like, look what our first payment was. $193,317.50 to Badgerland. That's payment number one.
Mm-hmm.
But we're on track to stay within bids, we're not gonna exceed those. Okay. Well, I what else to discuss?
Would we look at doing both of them, the fire and the,
I would
at one time?
suggest that
That would
they're
be-
both a need,
Exactly.
and if we don't do it and lose everything, then we haven't saved.
We haven't saved nothing.
Literally, you're left without options.
Do we need a motion to proceed with it?
I would say that that'd be appropriate,
Subject to financing?
subject to financing. That's the catch. That needs to be part of the motion.
Where do you think we can get financing, Bill? You got any idea?
Talk to Joey.
Where's the checkbook?
As long as there's checks in the checkbook, there's money in the bank.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing, is this stuff is, a lot of it is to protect the sewer and water resources, and a lot of it is for public works resources, police resources. So it literally touches every part of the village budget.
I'll make that motion that we proceed with the
The low bids.
low bids.
I'll second that.
Second by Roger. And the financing will
Contingency.
get contingent on locating the,
Looking in the funds.
I guess I got one question. If one of these, let's say it's not the lowest bidder, would provide a financing option, would you be willing
no,
Okay.
No, why not, Pete?
because you saw what we got 2.2%.
Yeah, okay.
Guarantee you won't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're gonna be
yeah.
more than that, yeah.
There's $10,000 difference in bid.
Either generators from
I
both names I
recall
know.
it's so close in the
Kohler,
generators.
same.
And what kind of timeline are they throwing at you?
To get it installed?
Yeah.
I think you're looking at probably 90 days, to be honest with you. Because we have to get this on a project list and depending on what they have and, you know, to get the generator is one thing, but there's certain switches that they have to buy also.
And there's also the part of cutting over, shutting everything off and turning it back on.
And we
We'll
did,
have to test the generator a couple times to make sure the transfer switch works properly before we ever turn the server equipment back on.
in talking with K&B, they did, they're accommodating to a Friday afternoon, Saturday, not to disrupt anything.
It might be
They
a
can
Friday,
run
and they'll
that
shut
fast.
the village down on a Friday. It may just be down to do the switchover because they have to work when We Energies is available, have a crew. And I don't think Saturday's a realistic date for We Energies.
The internal stuff they'd be able to do.
Attorney Vandy Castle, can we legally do this, proceed with installation without knowing where we're going to get the financing from?
Well, that's what the motion is, it's subject to financing, so you're gonna have to find it first before you can sign the contracts.
Okay.
It's a good thing Jody's not here tonight.
I'm not gonna be happy tomorrow morning when she shows up.
Yeah. I'm sure when this financing that we approved today, when that goes into place and satisfies those debts that we have out there, there was probably a few payments that were gonna be due this later part of the year that it'll pretty much,
That's what I'm kind of,
that, don't know what those numbers without Jody, but
To help with
I'm
that.
thinking it'll be found right there.
So are you saying to proceed without the,
No, no,
Financing?
put-
Oh, okay.
subject to financing,
alright, okay.
finding the money.
Joey, we had no vehicle or anything that come off of the rental deal this year. And we had
We have
rented
one
it.
coming off.
We
We
got
got one coming on,
Okay.
a truck.
Take care of that.
We had that
Your
fire
ticket's
engine
truck.
bill.
Well, that's part of the, that's part of this.
Yep. 2.7.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second contingent on identifying the financing. It may end up being a combination of several pots, but
So, the financing part you can take care of without any more votes then? So
Yes.
you can get it on the schedule once you figure that out?
yes.
So they can get it all ordered and everything? That's how that works?
There's no possibility that they would go into financing, Joe?
I think that, I checked when I went with a car, for example, I went through Ford for financing, and it was a crazy, what did I tell you, was 6.7% interest rate, so it was crazy amount of money.
If we can
working
find it
through-
here.
Through a, like, Ford motor.
Somehow.
So I can't imagine that if we went through Cummings or through the core company, I would bet that if they do offer financing, it'll be at a fairly high rate.
Yeah, most of our financing for vehicles has been in the 6 to 8% range.
Okay, that motion was made by Bruce and seconded by Roger.
You did all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is number 18, to consider to approve committee and other appointments for the board of Pulaski.
You have the one in front of you from last year's appointments.
Okay. The 2017.
Just have to make the changes as we go. I
Right.
didn't know what they were.
The labor negotiations is Reed Woodward, Chairman, Doug Prentice, Robert Van Lannen. The Board of Review is the President, Trustees, Clerk, and Assessor. Committee of the Whole. There's Planning and Zoning Commission is Reed Woodward, Chairman, Ed Kraus, Howard Zernicke, Greg Stashak, Dave O'Brien. Public Works, that is Joel Van Lannen. Trustee is Roger Brichkuski, and trustee Robert Gieske and Dr. Crumroy.
So those, excuse me, Reed, those last three then,
Yeah.
with, if it's Roger Birchkowski, all those terms are 2017, so those would be appointed annually with that asterisk, so then you would change that to 2018.
Yes. Catch it. The Housing Authority, Larry Puzin is the chairman. Bob Detman
Bob Detman is off as of December 31st, so there's an open position. Larry Puzin is going to let me know who that would be. And then that term is for another 5 years, so with that open position, that would change that from 2017 to 2022.
So we will be replacing Bob Detman. The Boarding and Zoning Appeals,
3 more, yeah,
Oh.
on the Housing Authority.
Doug Clements, Gene Schrader, and Chris Bielazinski. The Zoning Board of Appeals, these are a 3-year term. James Van Lannen is the chairman. This would be changed
2020.
to 2020. We'll clean these up and redo them. for you. You can make notes if you want. James Zajac is 2019. David Olson is 2017. That would be
2020.
2020. Forrest Burnett no longer lives in the village, so he will be replaced by probably Jason McKeefe, who's currently an alternate member. The Commission on Aging, Larry Fusen is the chairman, 2018. Gene Schrader, Bob Detman.
And he's no longer there, so that would be Jeff Barnes, Barnes. And then Gene Schrader's position, and Jeff Barnes, that would go from 2017 to 2019. Those would be 2-year terms.
Chris Bialoginski, Doug Clemens, Rosie Wyand.
And her term would go to 2019. And then the next one, Roger Birchkuski, would be 2019. And then talking with Larry Kuzen, he said there were 2 open positions, and one of them is going to be Pat Hughes, and the other one is still open. And then those meetings, they meet the second Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. So that next meeting that they have will be Tuesday, May 9th, 2017 at 9 a.m. And Roger, if you can contact Larry Kuzen.
Yes, I'll do that.
The Regional Planning Commission, Brown County Planning, is Reed Woodward. The main officer is Public Works Department, Joel. The main officer, the Tri-County Board of Directors is Bob on the Tri-County Fire Department. Bob Van Lannen is agreed to remain on the NEW paramedic. Of course, Karen, Jody, Mike Diener, Andy Castle, and Davison Kuthal are all 2019. And Bobby Roselle is the building and heating and the commercial, so that would be 2019. The commercial is currently the state of Wisconsin. And the following indefinite appointments are Team Lead Public Works to Joel Van Lannen, Police Chief Mark Hensel. The Village Administrator is open. Crew Leader for Sewer and Waters, Tom Rogers. The Fire Inspectors, Fire Chief or Designee. Parks Coordinators, Joel Van Lannen. Weed Commissioners, Joel Van Lannen. Forester, Joel Van Lannen. Recycling Coordinator, Joel Van Lannen. Barbara Crozell is the zoning administrator. Chris Smith and Roger will be the sign the vouchers. The check signers, Reed Woodward, Karen, and Jody. And Chris Smith is the alternate trustee. The support staff is now Tiffany Raymet. And the reserve office assistants are Barbara Van Lannen and Arlo Tetzoff. Parks Use Committee is Doug Prentice, chairman, Bruce Birchkuski, Joel Van Lannen. Members of the park organizations, and Doug, if there's changes, would you give us the correct names?
Yep, the soccer organizations.
Michelle Groff.
Yep.
That's the only one.
Yep.
Yeah. And the Community Development Authority is Reed Woodward, so this should be November. Yeah, these are November appointments. Robert Van Lannen is chairman. Pat Hughes is November. Larry Smith is November 18. Dr. Crummer is November 19th, Mark Hensel is November 17th, and
Chris Smith, that was when we approved that last year, so.
Okay.
Reed, excuse me, getting back to the park, why don't you put the president of Polka Day Committee on that committee too?
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
That sounds good.
And who is it this time?
Roger,
Mike Brzezicki?
Brzezicki's
Mike?
Mike is the chairman of that committee.
Would you happen to have an email address, Karen? For Mike?
I can get one for you. I don't
Awesome.
think, yeah.
Because they always got so many questions about what's going, let them get on that committee then.
Yep.
Good point.
So he's the president of Polka Days?
Right.
Okay.
He is this year now. I don't know when they elect their new officers, but
Okay, the Building and Land Committee, Jeff Dudley is the chairman, Robert Pulaski is trustee, Roger Pulaski. Gloria Morgan is still on there, but that may change because she is not the,
Chamber of Commerce.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Robert Tetzloff and Karen Ostrowski, Sewer and Water. Reed Woodward, chairman. Robert Gasky, trustee. Chris Smith, trustee. Robert Tetzloff, citizen. Barbara Van Lannen, citizen. Tom Roger, non-voting. Jody Shapelsky, secretary, non-voting. And Joel, of course, a member, non-voting. And the Economic Development ad hoc is Chris Smith, trustee. Robert Gasky, trustee. Chris is the chairperson. Sam McMahon. Gloria Morgan is replaced by
Jim
Ressick.
Jim Ressick.
Jim Ressick.
And John Syndergaard has moved out of the community, and I'll have to find a replacement for him.
Do we have to put the room tax committee on here
The
too?
Room Tax Commission is,
That's on the following page. That
Oh,
was
it is.
adopted
Oh,
after the organization
Yeah.
meeting, Tim.
Oh, okay,
That's
okay,
circle.
sorry. Yep.
I just want to run it past you, Jim Resick was put on the Room Tax Commission. He wasn't the head of the chamber,
Correct.
and I think that's an inappropriate conflict.
why don't we put our new office staff girl on there?
It's open for discussion, it's just that I feel that, the chamber director has too much of a vested interest in how that room tax money is.
This should be someone with a business and
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah. That was the intent on it, it was business related.
He does have good input. I don't know
Well,
if it's a
you
conflict or
understand?
not. Yeah.
There's not a lot of objectivity. He wants all the money he can get.
Now, his role with the chamber is going to be changing as well. He decided to find more employment, so he's going to be working 2 other jobs. And so after retiring, he kind of went back to work. So,
I think one was just till the end of the year, I think.
yeah,
So who's gonna be back in the role of the chamber, Gloria?
I don't know.
He has a lot of input on the
Yeah.
room tax, he's got a lot of connections.
Yeah. And his wife is a business owner in Shawano. So it's that business input that I think we found interesting in him and the.
Okay. Well, that's what I was thinking and why I was thinking it. But, I'm still willing to listen, but
So his name is on there yet, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. So, labor negotiations, again, I trust everything that Bob has to say regarding anything we discuss there. But there is times, being there is a father-son relationship there, that he can't say anything. And I'm just wondering if there should be maybe somebody in there that can communicate, rather than Reed and I just looking at each other and making the decision between two board members. I don't know if anybody would, I don't know if you're willing to give that up, Bob, but.
Not really.
Yeah, okay.
The thing that we really have to look at this year with labor negotiations is the police contract is up. It's up December 31st of this year.
We're gonna try to get it done before June expires.
I'll just give you my opinion on that. It like Lord Vanicast, it is legal, but is it ethical? Is that would be my big discretion, and I'm not dashing anybody, but is it ethical? Is it fair to Joe?
Labor negotiations is the committee, and it has to be approved by the whole
Yeah.
entire board with a discussion. Labor negotiations is the start. Bill, you step in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's absolutely correct. That's right.
So it's nice to have the three members going into that meeting, and when one member's opinions are completely held back or not even given because of that conflict, that's where I find issue. And I believe the same decisions Bob would, or recommendations he'd make in that situation, probably the same ones that I would make or read. Coming up into the negotiations for the police force, I would totally appreciate Bob's years and years of knowledge in that background. So I'm torn there too. But is it ethical? Two people making a decision for a committee that we assign three people. So I guess I would agree with you.
Issue with that, yeah.
I think we had that discussion one time before, and I think, Reed, you told me that there's only 3 allowed on labor negotiations, we can't have 5.
No,
Is that correct?
Because that's more than the quorum of the board.
Okay. Okay, that's what.
That got us in trouble when we tried to discipline somebody, remember that?
Right. Yeah, you're limited to 3.
Reed, you're the chairman, so you, if there was a issue, I don't know what or how, but could you appoint somebody else? If it was an issue with Doug or an issue with Bob or with conflict?
A conflict?
Can you appoint somebody else for that?
For a specific meeting?
Yeah,
or
for a specific meeting.
Not without coming back to the board, because all the president could do is appoint. You're the ones that have to approve. So it would have to come back to the board first.
We've been down this path a couple times in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have been.
And it's gotten less important as we only have one union left,
And that would be what?
police.
And that one's due at the end of this year.
Pardon?
That contract is renewable
Oh.
for the end of this year, where January 1st it has to be in place. Otherwise, if it's not, we have back pay wages, and that's not a lot of fun.
Well, when I got hired, there was, I think, 3 Van Lennons. And
Barb Van Lannon was the treasurer.
Barb Van Lennon was the treasurer, and, we functioned quite well all of these years. We learned a lot when we tried to discipline people, and that's when we found out we had too many trustees, that we were actually doing things with a quorum and we shouldn't have been doing. And that was out of a law, as a result of a lawsuit, so.
I'll make it easier, let the board decide, let them vote on it.
Can I ask, is anybody else interested in stepping into that role or seeing that side of those?
I mean, I guess
Those
I would
meetings?
just like to say that when these issues come up, it sounds like Bob abstains from
Yep.
the voting and maybe even discussion,
Yeah.
which is what in a, when the full board meets to do something, sometimes that happens too. Now, in this case, you lose 1/3 of your members, but to me, it would not be an ethical issue as long as that happens,
Yeah.
when he's abstaining, so
I see that, Bob. Thank you.
it's maybe not the best thing in the world, but it's not an ethical issue, to me at least.
So when it goes to closed session for a specific, and let's say it's regarding Joel's pay or, the whole team's pay. So really that shouldn't be discussed necessarily in that labor's negotiations. Let's bring it to a closed session, the
For
whole
everybody.
group,
That's,
rather than
that's
having Reed and I decide.
That's technically, we just suggest,
Yeah.
and the board, the entire board votes on it.
Okay. So we're just creating a
I've been-
little
I've
bit
been
of.
overruled quite a few times by you guys. Because I'm apparently not as generous as you are.
We gotta keep what we got.
Yeah. So,
Put it up for a vote, Reed.
you've got to vote to approve these appointments. That's your job.
Yeah.
I suggested the appointments.
So we're at that stage.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I just ask a question? In regards to the economic development,
Yes.
what are we going to do with Jim then? And I still would recommend Mark Becker for replacing John Syndergaard.
Yes.
So,
And I think that I do need to talk to Mark Becker. I haven't had the
oh,
opportunity.
okay. But, so,
He did say he'd be interested in getting involved, but I gotta get specific with him.
yep. Mark Becker? He's the
Or from
county-
the
yeah.
supervisor.
But in regards to Jim, so you want him to still be on there
I,
for now? I mean, otherwise we'll be without another person.
Mark is excellent. We can, vote on that later.
Okay.
After I get a chance to talk to Mark.
So, what Chris is asking, Jim Rezick stays on there for the chamber,
I
in place
guess.
of Gloria, right?
Probably for now, probably should leave him on there, yeah.
Okay.
Is it official that he's stepping down?
Nothing's completely official.
Yeah, he's kind of working in, I think it changed a couple times, but he can't